All right, Miles, we have to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They started 0-2. They're now 2-2, fresh off a huge win over a very good Miami Dolphins, a previously unbeaten Miami Dolphins. But Miles, the past is the past. It's Ravens week. This is one of the best rivalries in all of NFL. Any AFC North matchup is obviously a huge football, great football, both sides. We got Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have a huge day from one of their key playmakers to overcome a very, very talented Ravens football team, especially on offense. And I know you've got a story on one in particular, but before I hand it off to you, Bengals fans, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Who do you think will have the biggest game against a very, very good Baltimore Ravens team coming up this weekend? Is it Jamar Chase? Is he going to have one of those monster days? He torched the Ravens last year. Is it maybe Hayden Hurst stepping up from the tight end position? Maybe it's the running game. Maybe it's a different receiver. Let us know who you think is going to really step up this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. But Miles, give us the latest out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, Nick, there's a second receiver in that receiving duo over in Cincinnati. There's been getting a lot of play lately, and he's been looking really good. Jamar Chase isn't the only one. Tee Higgins has been phenomenal this season so far. Notably, last week versus the Dolphins, put up 124 yards, a big time one, especially with that 59-yard touchdown. He looked kind of unstoppable. And Higgins goes on to talk about, almost in my eyes, it was like the Dolphins disrespected him a little bit, saying that the Dolphins' game plan was to have safety help on guys like Jamar Chase and a few of the other receivers, and to have Xavier Howard cover Higgins on his own, leave him out on an island. And we see how well that worked out for him. Higgins torched the Dolphins for 124 yards. Howard could not shut him down, and he had one heck of a game. And just to be honest, this is probably up there for one of the top two receiving duos in the NFL at this point in time. It obviously, I think it was almost number one, number two going head to head when you have Hill and Waddle up against Chase and Higgins. But Higgins had a really big day, and he's proving that he is one of the premier tight end or wide receivers in the NFL, don't you think?
Yeah, and one thing I love about Higgins is his toughness, right? He obviously had the concussion against Pittsburgh week 1, busted his lip against Dallas, and so far the reports, I think he hurt his ankle a little bit. I think it was his ankle against the Dolphins, and reports latest from Cleveland.com, and he's a promising start to practice. All signs are he's going to play, and they're going to need him because what his performance has forced teams to do. So look, you brought it up. A lot of teams want to double Jamar Chase. They want to have man-on-man with safety directly over top. That leaves a guy like Higgins on an island. And obviously the way Higgins has been dominating, it kind of forces teams out of that coverage, forces teams to go to like a too deep safety kind of look. What does that open up? It opens up their strong running game led by MakesThem. The tight end gets involved, so Hurst gets productive. Opens up slot receivers. You get Tyler Boyd getting productive. So really, as productive as Higgins has been and as good he's been, he's forcing defenses to react and change their strategy. Because right now, everyone's trying to make sure Jamar Chase doesn't beat him. Well, right now, Higgins is beating him, and he's beating him, kind of banged up, playing through some injuries. And I really love that about guys, because sometimes you get some of these receivers, right? They always have these nagging injuries. They get a little injury that takes a long time for them to come back, a sore hammy, a twisted ankle. They're out for 6 months, it feels like. But I love Higgins' toughness. He participated in the latest walkthrough at the time of this filming. So all signs point to him playing for the Ravens. So I'm really excited to see what he does against a really, really good Ravens secondary, especially at the safety position.
Yeah, no, and in this receiving core, you mentioned all these names. Obviously, Chase, number one guy, really good. Tyler Boyd has been, historically a solid receiving option. Higgins is good. Hayden Hurst has been really good. This is a Bengals team that can be deadly, and they could go toe-to-toe with this Ravens offense, who's also been on a track record lately, scoring quite a lot of points, one of the highest scoring teams in the NFL up to this point. But you see what the Dolphins did to the Ravens, Nick. You saw Waddle, you saw Hill. If you don't have the coverage to cover both these guys and look all over the hill, you double Hill, and Waddle had so many daggers. He had a 75-yard touchdown against Baltimore, a couple other big plays. This teeing up for a game for Higgins that if he can go up against this Ravens secondary and they don't keep their eyes on him, he's primed to have another really big day, don't you think?
Especially since Burrow has really owned the Baltimore Ravens, at least
Yeah.
last year in those 2 games, and you brought up a great point bringing up that Miami game, because the one thing you can beat the Ravens are, especially with the injuries they've had in the secondary and the new guys, the rookie Hamilton, the veteran, Williams that they added in free agency, they have been prone to a few mental mistakes, little miscommunications, and that's where they've given up some of their big plays. And when you have big time receivers that can take advantage of those, like a Waddle, like a Tyreek Hill, then it really opens up your offense. And that's exactly what the Bengals have with Jamar Chase and notably Tee Higgins. So the fact is, if the Ravens make any sort of mistake, any sort of miscommunication, a guy like Higgins will 100% be there to take advantage of it. You better believe Burrow's going to find him, because he has feasted on the Ravens, at least last year.